Diane isn't a big shot. She's my ghostwriter. She's writing a book that's not even gonna have her name on it. You think this is how she expected her life would be going?
Oh boy, but hey, I am used to a little controversy at this point. Right, Chair Bear? Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Bojack Horseman, or more specifically, Diane Nguyen, or even more specifically, her writing career.
Diane Nugent?
A girl has no name, a human girl that is. Ever so long ago, I made the long-awaited video on Beatrice. That video crossed the Dagmar threshold, meaning it got more than 50,000 views. I use that as a benchmark for shows I can make recurring videos on. So I am legally obligated to test the algorithm by making at least one more video. Will Bojack join the likes of other shows like South Park, Star vs, and The Owl House? Or will Bojack turn out like Transformers Prime, a show I love but one that doesn't get a lot of views, so I can't really talk about it as often as I want to. And I know I said I'd get to Todd, but he's the new Beatrice, as in I will complain a fudge load about him, but make a video several months later. Well, either him or Anne Boonchoy. But that video is in the pipeline because it's a Patreon request. I'm sorry, it's just harder to write than I thought it would be. Anyhow, let's see. Ever since I started reviewing, I found a weird fascination with shows that talk about the writing process. I used to write for fun, and I still do, but it's a weird feeling when I can do that and get paid for it. In fact, one of my favorite Disenchantment episodes is In Her Own Right, where Bean tries to navigate a recurring nightmare by writing a play about her parents.
You can't escape your dreams, but you can stop a nightmare if you work through the issues causing it.
Sorry, they did not invent Tums yet, or therapy, or empathy. Rewatching Bojack after it's ended, I've discovered a newfound connection to Diane that I did not have before. I wouldn't say she's my favorite character, that's Vanessa Gecko, because she's so popular, but I relate to Diane a little more. That's not to say I think she is immaculate. I don't hate her, I don't think people who hate her are automatically misogynistic, even if those people do exist, as there is some legitimate criticisms you can make, but she has her moments.
What do you care?
Hey, excuse me. Do you know you're breaking the law by giving everybody water? In the state of California, it is illegal for a restaurant to serve people water before they ask for it. There is a drought.
Anyhow, let's discuss. In Bojack, there's a character called Diane Nguyen. Diane is the much younger wife of Mr. Peanut Butter and a writer, although at the start of the show, they're just boyfriend and girlfriend who happen to live together. Diane doesn't hail from California or even the West Coast, but Boston, as her father was a professor of Vietnamese history at Tufts.
What with you being a tenured professor of Vietnamese history at Tufts and all?
Christ, Dee, that's my job. I wouldn't ask you to have a period on your day off.
You know, I've heard some people say that Diane is meant to be a realistic take on Meg Griffin, and I'm all for it. So shut up, Diane. Oh wait, Cry-Ann. I'm only pointing this out because in a nutshell, Diane had a crappy childhood, and this kind of relates to her writing as an adult.
I didn't grow up surrounded by love. That's the problem.
You're fine. Name one example of me being a bad dad.
Constantly. I just can't express.
Because every writer 100% has to have a bad or mediocre childhood. How else are we to use our deep-seated resentment to make money? What, you want us to go to therapy? That time could be better used for writing. Growing up, Diane's favorite show was Horsin' Around, which, as she describes to Bojack,
but for half an hour every week, I got to watch this show about 4 people who had nobody, who came together and became a family. And it helped me survive.
Keep this in mind, it's very important. She even got to meet Bojack at a Halloween party one year.
Oh god. Listen, I just wanted to tell you how much I loved horsing around. It was like a very formative part of my childhood. Thank you.
This was me when I got to meet Alex Brightman a couple months ago at the Broadway flea market. I felt like such a dork. Diane is effectively the one who made it out, as she went to Boston University and later moved to LA. She wanted to be a writer, but had to work a variety of odd jobs to help make ends meet. In 2007, while working as a barista, she got a rejection.
Dear Diane, we are sorry to say that your piece, An Open Letter to Open Letters, wasn't right for us despite its evident merit. Do you know what this means? Someone gave my piece a read and decided against it.
At least she was in good spirits. Now, one thing I wish the show did more of was show us Diane's life before Bojack. Because they kind of mentioned in season 1 how Diane was quite the accomplished writer. She just wasn't on the level of, say, Stephen King or Stephanie Meyer. Think of one of those people who you would probably not recognize if you saw them in a crowd, unless you were a major fan or big in academia. She wrote 3 books, one of which was a New York Times bestseller. Another was on Bojack's idol Secretariat, and she spent 3 years researching him. Bojack would love to know more about that. I would love to know more about that. You could make a spin-off all about the research for that book alone. In season 1, Diane is hired as a ghostwriter for Bojack's memoir, and she spends several episodes shadowing him. And I gotta say, don't knock it. Ghostwriters actually make good money. Some get a flat fee, others get paid a certain amount per word. And remember how long books can be, so yeah. At first, Bojack is unwilling to provide any details about his childhood.
What was your childhood like?
Normal.
Normal?
Yeah, it was normal childhood stuff.
Thankfully, slowly but surely, he opens up. Bojack and Diane agree to a warts and all approach, where nothing will be sugar-coated.
I can write you the standard empty-calorie celebrity tell-some if that's what you're looking for.
From now on, full truth. Warts and all.
Especially after Bojack gets into a fight with Herb, prior to his death.
Look, I won't put what happened today in the book if you don't want me to.
No, it's okay. Full truth. Like we agreed. Doesn't matter anyway. I don't even care what anybody thinks anymore.
Also, a bunch of stuff happens to Diane, but it's boring, so we're mostly gonna ignore it. In One Trick Pony, Diane finishes the first draft, which is entitled One Trick Pony.
So I finished the book and sent the draft to the publishers.
What? My book is ready? Let me read it. Can I read it?
Bojack reads it, and he doesn't like how it portrays him so negatively.
First time I met Bojack Horseman, he was puking cotton candy off the deck of his lavish house in the hills, the lights of the city twinkling below us.
Which, I kinda see it from both sides. On the one end, I think Diane just wrote what she saw. What positive thing did Bojack do to make her think he could be better? The only bad thing he did that you couldn't say was his fault was the Neil McBeal incident. And when you think about it, it's effectively common knowledge that Bojack isn't exactly the best person out there. Imagine ghostwriting a book for, say, Mark Hamill. And the entire book consists of, I was in Star Wars, and wow, the Earth is round.
I realized that the best way to fully capture you, warts and all...
This isn't warts and all. It's just warts. Where's the all? I come off like a total...
At the same time, I think the book could have also done more to say that Bojack is a bad person, but put some kind of positive spin on it. Maybe say, while pretending to be Bojack, I am writing this book to encourage people to be better. Or, I mean this to be a cautionary tale, or something like that. Perhaps one of the few nice things Bojack did in the first season was teach Diane how to properly deal with her grief, or lack thereof.
I still just want them to be proud of me and think I did good. Is that really stupid?
Yep.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is. You want those guys to be proud of you?
That could be the end of the book. One Trick Pony could be like The Things They Carried, where it's written out of order. Like this. So far, I've written a lot of bad stuff about Bojack, but I want to leave this book off on a high note. Why did I come this far? Because when I was at my lowest, Bojack helped me. Does it make up for what you've read? You be the judge of that. But the real criticism, I have to say, is Diane was asked to ghostwrite, meaning pretend to be Bojack. And instead, she wrote about him like he was a deer grazing in the meadow.
I wondered where this came from. There were 2 obvious suspects. His mother Beatrice, heiress to the Sugarman Sugar Cube's fortune and used to certain comforts.
If Bojack should be mad at anything, it's that Diane did not write the novel she was hired to. Diane goes as far as to get several pages of the book leaked to BuzzFeed. And much to Bojack's horror, the first few reviews are great.
We all agree Diane broke contract, but the response has been amazing. People want to read more. We have to get this to the printers by the end of the week. because that's when the repo men are coming to take away our printers.
Bojack tries to spite Diane by writing his own version by the deadline, but a combo of drugs, Sarah Lynn and Todd, and a subpar writing ability means that he produces
20 pages of Doctor Who erotic fanfiction, a recipe for soup, and a bunch of embedded YouTube videos that can't possibly be printed in book form.
Reluctantly, he lets One Trick Pony be published as is. As expected, it's a bestseller. It even wins a Golden Globe.
I feel like I should mention that my book was not a comedy or a musical. Do you guys actually watch the movies you give awards to? Because I kind of get the sense that, also, my book was not a movie. You do know that, right?
But does it win a Pulitzer, is the real question. It gets to be so successful that Diane is given two options. One, she could do what she did with Bojack, but this time with a millionaire named Sebastian St. Clair. I wonder if he has a sister named Mindy. The catch is, it's in war-torn Cordovia, where she would be documenting his exploits.
Now the pills will give you nightmares, I mean just horrifying. But the malaria will give you death. So you're going to want to take the pills, Diane.
Uh-huh.
Or she could stay and be a consultant for the new Secretariat movie that Bojack is working on. Her Princess Carolyn, it's not a hard job.
What does that mean?
It's the cushiest job in the world. You sit in a fancy chair and eat pastries all day. And then once a week you say, oh, secretary wouldn't do that.
Albeit, it's probably for 10 to 16 hours a day. Obviously, Diane chooses the safer option, but she does try to tell Sebastian she'll go a few months after filming wraps up. Mr. Peanut Butter helps her come to that conclusion.
Poop in a bucket.
Honey, nobody wants to poop in a bucket.
Maybe I do. Maybe I want to poop in a bucket.
If you want to poop in a bucket, we can get you a bucket.
In season 2, Diane stays to work on the movie, but a variety of factors causes filming to be delayed. Part of it is Diane's fault. Her one job was to stand around and make sure nobody trips on a giant cord.
Why don't you stand over there and make sure no one trips over that cable?
This cable?
Do you have $1,000 for me?
What?
Because each minute I spend talking to you, that's how much money I'm wasting.
Oh, sorry.
And somebody freaking did!
I don't know if this helps or not, but when Secretariat was a kid, he actually...
My face! My beautiful face! Why didn't someone tell me not to trip over that cable?
Diane owes somebody a new face. Good thing your husband is rich. However, Diane is still a writer, and it's not always a glamorous job. The episode, Hank After Dark, sees Diane learn a hard lesson about sticking to your principles, especially pre-Me Too. Diane and Bojack go on a book tour to promote One Trick Pony. By mistake, Diane brings up Hank Hippopopolis and how he has a career in spite of numerous allegations of misconduct.
You can just Google Hank Hippopopolis allegations and you don't have to Google it right now.
Diane effectively becomes a scapegoat.
National Treasure faced the same kind of smear tactics used by the Viet Cong.
Are you calling attention to the fact that Miss Nguyen is Vietnamese?
I'd like to think that's a coincidence.
Which I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word considering this world, but is told to try to stay impartial in the name of the tour.
Please don't make a big thing out of this. It's really not a good time, you know, with my show about to launch.
Hey, we are on the same page.
Which I know Diane wrote the book, but if there's all this controversy, couldn't you have the book tour but just not include Diane? Just say she's sick or something. Yeah, Diane wrote it, but the book is about Bojack. And to most people, I'd imagine getting the chance to meet your childhood idol is more interesting than getting to meet his ghostwriter. Or Diane could still be there, just don't do the Q&A. I'm surprised Princess Carolyn did not take this approach. Still, after a fan makes a misogynistic comment, Diane decides she won't back down and embraces being hated, in spite of all the negative publicity.
How dare you spread a narrative?
Don't tell me what to spread. I'll spread whatever I want. It's called one of the amendments.
Ladies, please don't get hysterical.
Now, in my Beatrice video, I said that while I loved this episode, I wish they at least said what Hank did that was so bad.
These allegations are so crazy, I can't even say them on TV or I'll sound like a crazy person.
Diane, to her credit, tries to say it, but then Wanda shuts off the TV.
8 different women, all former assistants, claim that Uncle Hanky took them to a...
What is Diane doing?
Yeah, considering how he's based off of people like Bill Cosby and David Letterman, I know what they're implying, but I think the episode would be more impactful if they outright said something like, oh, Hank did this, or oh, Hank did that. The reason why celebrity scandals are so damaging, especially to fans, is because after you learn startling information, you never see that celebrity the same way again, especially if they or their works had a major impact on your life. And what doesn't help is when they're found out and either don't care or effectively give a non-apology, it seems like you're helping a bad person profit. And that perfect image you had of them in your head never existed. True, we know that Poe buddy nerfed, but it's still a hard thing to wrap your head around. Imagine reading Harry Potter after anything J.K. Rowling said. Imagine being Mr. Peanut Butter and remembering that time you took a picture with your idol, or even more recently, when you got to meet after so long, and then realizing that he went home and did unspeakable things to the girl who brought him his coffee. If you want to see how much this hurts, watch Dead End, that show on Netflix. I can't say the whole thing. And wow, I really gotta make a video on that show like yesterday. After I made that remark in my Beatrice video, some people commented it was a reference to how the news didn't really say what Cosby did. Maybe it's true, but you could also argue it's the show trying to make Hank as applicable as possible. And in some sense, that kind of lessened the impact they were going for. Sorry if this was a huge rant, but you have no idea how long I've wanted to say this. Diane wants to take down Hank, so Princess Carolyn tries to help by hooking her up with famed journalist and editor Barbara Manatee. No, I'm sorry. Her real name is Amanda Hannity. And holy crap, Beverly is impersonating the Chicago journalist Mary Sunshine. Does Leonard know? Anyhow, Amanda is sent from up above. Okay, I'm done. To help Diane take down Hank.
I would love to take down Hippopopolis and finally topple the acropolis of monstrous hypocrisy that ensconces us.
Also, I like the early hints of what's to come when Amanda keeps preaching for equality and spends the entire scene critiquing female employees.
Yes, turtleneck, you're fired. That dress is hideous. Go home, burn it, and come back. We're supposed to have opinions. We're just supposed to smile and look pretty. No, this model doesn't look as pretty as the other one. Can we kill it?
But first, she wants Diane to get intel on one of Hank's victims, Nicole.
Hi, my name's Nicole. I work for Mr. Hippopopolis, and, I really need to talk to someone.
Diane goes to talk to her in a parking garage. Holy macaroni formuloli. Diane, my Italian blood is tingling like fresh Sunday gravy. Get out of there before you get whacked. Oh wait, she doesn't get whacked, but she does meet with Hank.
Hello, Diane. Thank you, Nicole.
Whoa!
I'll say it once for your article. I didn't do any of those things that you're accusing me of.
Yeah, you should have kept a phone or something on you, Diane. At least then you would have proof. The episode was very clear on how powerful proof is. Hank tells Diane that he isn't going to whack her, but he does give a bit of brutal honesty. He'll get away with it because he's a powerful, charismatic figure who makes the industry tons of money.
24 hours from now, the news cycle will move on to something else. I'll go back to hosting my dance show, which employs hundreds of nice, good, hardworking people.
I mean, it did not stop the Connors. That show has its moments. Things get worse for Diane as Amanda informs her they can't publish the article.
Listen, I had a conversation with my bosses, and we agreed these kind of stories, they don't sell magazines.
Of course, it's because she does not speak French. They're an untapped market. Plus, realistically, she's just an editor and she and Hank work for the same people. So even if she might not like it, she still has to listen to them. Regardless, I hope Phil doesn't take her to the ball.
This has nothing to do with the fact that AOL also owns MBN and is currently profiting off of Hank Hippopopolis' good reputation.
It's harsh, but I think it's a sad reality of journalism. You still have to uphold a brand, and while you can have your own ideas, at the end of the day, you're working for somebody else all the time and have to worry about making money on top of it. Writing is all about freedom, and with journalism, I'd argue you are not always free. Not just because you have to report what happened. Mr. Peanut Butter shows Diane that the hateum is so grand that she's been getting death threats.
You can't You stupid, ugly can't.
Yeah, that doesn't say can't.
And fearing for her life, tells her to trade one hell pit for another.
Yeah, maybe I should go to Cordovia. I'm obviously not making a difference here.
Actually, maybe you should. Go feel good about yourself and do your important work.
Believing she has little choice, Diane decides, until the heat dies down, to go into the world and do noble things for the good of all. Okay, I'm sorry, last time, I promise. You know, I wanted to include song lyrics for the longest time. This is the one I picked. Diane goes to hang out with Sebastian St. Clair. Much to her surprise, Diane learns that rich boy Sebastian is a huge D-word, who doesn't care about the people he's meant to be helping.
I'm concerned you're spending a lot of time with this sickly child.
Isn't this why we're here? To help these people?
I'm here to help these people. You're here to help me help them by writing a book about me.
Now, I hate to use this clip 2 videos in a row, but come on, D9. He sounds like a substitute teacher. That should have been your first hint. But at the same time, you can argue he is at least doing something and putting his wealth to good use. Would you or could you just drop everything to go help starving people in third world countries? To some degree, his detachment is also a blessing, or maybe a coping mechanism, because self-serving or not, he's still able to do his job in a place where death is always a constant presence. Either way, it's a slippery slope. Diane's breaking point is the Kinko incident. In Cordovia, Diane ends up befriending a refugee named Kinko.
Diane, this is Kinko.
I am Kinko.
In his language, it means orphan whose parents were murdered by rebels and will die young, probably from malaria.
A cute, adorable little kid.
When I grow up, I can be food critic for New Yorker?
You can do anything you want in life. I mean, not everyone can write for the New Yorker, but there's always the Atlantic.
Aw, and I know nothing bad will ever happen to King.
Is he okay?
Oh, no, he's certainly dead. See, Diane, I told you not to make friends.
Ooh, it sucks to be Kinko.
This is too much.
If you're going to survive, you'll need to harden up. I asked you to join me here because I thought you could handle it. But if you can't, you can go home.
Diane realizes she can tough it out in Cordovia and returns home, but not wanting to go crawling back to Mr. Peanut Butter with her tail between her legs. Ironic, I know. She ends up bunking with Bojack. Blah blah blah, stuff happens, and Princess Carolyn offers Diane the chance to ghostwrite tweets as part of her new agency.
I don't know how to do that.
You're a ghostwriter. It's the same as writing a book. They're just a lot shorter and more people read them.
It's a little frustrating as she has to deal with people like Christina.
Need to capture the essence of my personal brand, okay? Brand fin polish.
Can you spell that last one?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't say her real name, I'm gonna get demonetized. Diane adjusts to this newfound job, taking Instagram pictures of people like the Snatch Batch, and pretending to be celebrities like Cynthia Nixon.
Shut up, Bojack. Shit! I just tweeted "Shut up, Bojack" as Cynthia Nixon.
I buy it. She is not a fan, and for good reason.
But then trouble happens, kind of depending on where you fall on the political spectrum. After Diane breaks her arm, she learns from the doctor that she's pregnant, and as she and PB don't want children, Diane decides to terminate the pregnancy. One night, while she's at an award show ghostwriting, she accidentally posts as Christina that she's having the procedure. Christina is upset at first, but realizes she can use this to her advantage.
Geez, you're trending like crazy.
I'm trending? If I can make one woman feel a little less alone, then it's all worth it. And if I can make 1 million women buy my album, then it's definitely all worth it.
To this end, she writes a song about her experience. The anthem, rap, rap, pew, pew. You know, I really wish I could play it, but you should check it out. It's hilarious and surprisingly catchy. Diane does not like this, believing the song is lowbrow and in poor taste.
Still, she is putting her company's bottom line before the very real damage that bottlenose maniac is doing every time she gets on the news and—
However, at the clinic, she sees that, lie or not, appropriate or not, it's still helping people.
It's a joke. You get that it's a joke, right? And when you can joke about it, it makes it less scary, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of like this approach. In fact, it's part of why I love the Beetlejuice musical, and why my favorite Frasier episode is the one where he goes into a depression spell. Laughter is always the best medicine. But I should save the speech for when I eventually make a video on Tweak from South Park. After the fiasco with Sarah Lynn, Bojack says that Diane is too good of a writer to be limiting herself to just writing tweets for other people.
You don't want to hear this, but you're too good to be writing Instagram captions for celebrities.
I'm not just writing.
I'm sorry, but you are. You know you are.
And also, PC wants to close down her agency, so she's out of a job regardless. Always the networker, PC introduces Diane to her boyfriend's sister, Stefani.
Crush?
Oh, you do not need to apologize here, Diane. Sorry is a crutch, and crutch is an ableist term, and I'm sorry if that shocks you, but I will not apologize for it.
Holy crap, it's Dawn from Waitress. What's with Bojack hiring all of these Broadway stars? I'm not complaining, I'm just curious. Stefani is creating a new website called Girl Crush, essentially a feminist equivalent to BuzzFeed. Unlike most of the world, Stefani actually admires Diane for standing up to Hank.
That said about Hank Hippopopolis last year was supernova red hot and badass. It wasn't even on Fleek. Fleek was on it.
Then Diane is told a question.
He's never gonna get it. And meanwhile, you also knew that all your readers looked up to you and wanted to read your opinion. Would you write about it then?
Unlike Amanda Hannity, I think it's important to point out how, while Diane is still a journalist, this time it's different. For one, Stefani owns the website, so Diane answers to nobody but her, and so long as she pleases somebody who already likes her, she'll be fine. Not to mention, Girl Crush actually aligns with Diane's political views, so she wouldn't have to sacrifice her morals. To some degree, she would have to sacrifice her integrity and go from writing hard-hitting exposés to top 10 lists. But like usual, she is able to make it work.
Let's get a number.
Wait a minute. You're Diane Nguyen. I recognize you from your Girl Crush avatar. I loved 20 Reasons to Try the Diva Cup.
Oh.
However, Girl Crush proves to be somewhat challenging, not only because Stefani does not believe in shares.
Getting some clicks? Get them clicks, girl. Get them clicks.
But because Mr. Peanut Butter is running as governor. Diane doesn't appreciate how her husband is going to be a puppet governor, especially for his ex-wife, who possibly wears the skin of Dalmatian puppies, and it's affecting her performance at work.
What about our readers who aren't having with their husbands? Isn't this just gonna make them feel bad? I mean, not everyone gets to have great all the time, right? Ladies?
One morning, Stefani encourages Diane to do what she does best and write about Mr. Peanut Butter's hypocrisy.
I can't go against my husband.
What the frack? Why not? You gotta do you, girl.
So she does, which leads into an interesting conversation between PB and Tom.
These frack-happy politicians even knew how dangerous it was. They wouldn't allow it in their own backyard. Your wife has issued a challenge. Would you allow fracking in your own backyard?
I would.
Unfortunately, Diane has to live with her husband.
Be careful with that faucet. The water comes out very hot because of the fracking.
Ah! How could you let him do this?
Out of spite, Diane decides to write another article, and she's going to publish it, unless he agrees to drop out, which sunk cost is a big deal, and this is Mr. Peanut Butter we're talking about, so he doesn't. An argument ensues, and Diane publishes the article.
I don't want you to be governor, because you would be bad at it, because you don't stand for anything.
No!
Diane continues her writing career against her husband, and honestly, I wish they did more with this. For example, in the next episode, Diane has an encounter with a fearful stranger and realizes she likes guns. So she writes an article entitled A Handgun of One's Own, about how guns are empowering to women.
Starting now, I'm doing what it takes to put the power in my own hands. That's why I own a gun.
Honestly, I don't hate this episode, but I think outside of the side plot, it's all over the place, and should have stuck to them dealing with a major shooting. Perhaps, as a governor candidate, Mr. Peanut Butter is asked for his thoughts, and gives the standard, oh, thoughts and prayers approach. Maybe he hates guns too, but he could be like, so what, Diane? It does not affect me. Woodchuck, on the other hand, would actually try to do something about it, like talking to the victims, or trying to invest in legislation. Meanwhile, Mr. Peanut Butter just posts on social social media and just goes on with his life. Diane, in exchange, could write about how cold and unfeeling he is as a candidate, and arguments persist. Or Mr. Peanut Butter might want to do something about it, but Katrina tells him, or manipulates him, into keeping his head in the sand. Still, Diane's writing career once again gets her in hot water, as the two will have graphic arguments over the news and then bone one out.
Oh, idea!
Oh, I have
is
no
your
idea?
bubble of privilege
What is it
so
with humans
thick
and guns?
that
You
you
people
really...
Yes! Fill my chamber with your powerful bullets!
Get it? I said bone because he's a dog. However, Mr. Peanut Butter eventually drops out of the race, and Katrina chooses a new patsy, his other ex-wife, Jessica Biel. Unbelievable! Diane is set by Stefani to interview Jessica Biel, who turns out to be the most perfect person ever.
So, why is this disgusting avocado on my plate? I feel personally attacked right now.
So sorry.
Ugh. Anyway.
You know, they say if you want to get to know somebody on a personal level or realize how they are, subject them to the waiter test. Trust me, it works. Instead of making Jessica Biel out as a bad candidate because, argument's sake, she's in favor of higher taxes or owned by powerful lobbyists, she is bad because she hates avocados.
A blog post about Jessica Biel is gaining attention for the seemingly minor detail that the candidate would not eat an avocado.
Wait, I hate avocados. Does this mean I can't be governor? It works, and Woodchuck wins the election. In season 5, Diane deals with divorcing from Mr. Peanut Butter while trying to remain friends. She has to move into a crappy apartment because this is LA, and she starts to regularly see a shrink who suggests that Diane do what she can to get out of her comfort zone. Around this time, Girl Crush is getting fumigated, so Diane has to work from home several years too early.
Here is my content, Diane. I need words for my website. There are words on the website now, but I need younger words, newer words.
She attends a housewarming party in Mr. Peanut Butter's house, where she sees him be intimate with a waitress named Pickles Aplenty. In that moment, she realizes that even if the divorce was for the best, it still hurts because things will never be the same way ever again. Before you say anything, I don't hate Pickles. I don't think she's annoying. I just wish they did more with her influencer angle, or made her more of a take on those people who get famous because they date other famous people. Out of desperation, Diane goes to Vietnam, but for work reasons has to frame it as an article.
10 Reasons to Go to Vietnam, a Girl Crush personal travel guide.
In Vietnam, Diane finds she can't discover the community she was searching for. She might be Vietnamese, but she was raised American, so she's a tourist. Which, I'm mixed race, and this episode is so relatable, especially this one part.
You came here looking to reconnect with your roots, but now you feel stupid. You put on the clothing you bought and it feels like a costume.
All the Spanish and Italian I know, I learned from watching TV. But like usual, Diane uses the article to help her through her troubles.
Because it's good to get out of your routine. Is that too similar to reason number 5? Get out of your natural habitat? No, it's a different thing. It's fine. It's whatever.
And she's now better able to accept that things are different. And she even gets to meet Laura Linney.
Oh my god, you're Laura Linney.
People say that to me all the time. And it's true. I am Laura Linney.
Diane's luck turns around when she gets hired to ghostwrite Bojack's new drama, Filbert. Flip is just as polite to Diane as he is to everybody else, including the horse he borderline assaulted.
Here's what I need. Sit in my office, don't chew too loud, and collect your paycheck.
I can contribute more than that.
Not necessary. Hey, thanks for being here. You're really making a difference.
But Diane is a pretty effective script doctor.
Whoa, that's good stuff. We're doing it, Diane. We're doing it.
However, this is also around the same time that Anna gives her a tape of Bojack confessing to something happening on a houseboat in New Mexico, and she now realizes she can't completely trust him. It doesn't help that Bojack hijacks her therapist, effectively kicks her out, and once he realizes therapy involves hard work, he just plain stops going.
You know what? This has been great. I got what I wanted and I made so much progress, so I think I'm done to change my stripes. Dr. Indira, you're great at your job. Goodbye forever!
Once again, out of spite, wow, did not realize this was a recurring theme, Diane uses the few completed lines of Interior Sub to write a hard-hitting Filbert episode, where Filbert confesses to Sassy how he kissed a teenage girl so many years ago back on board a submarine and let her die.
Why are you telling me all this?
It's just good to have someone to talk to.
Amazing.
Now this is the only time I have ever disliked Diane for being a writer, and I wish she kept her mouth shut.
Kiss her back.
What?
We need to get you kissing her back.
Kiss me, you idiot. Kiss her!
I know she was doing this to get back at Bojack, but you know who else she was hurting? Penny, his victim. And I know some people are like, oh, Penny isn't really a victim, but you have to acknowledge that Penny was still affected by it. And it's still her story, and she might not want it out there. But Kitty, Penny would definitely never watch Bojack, but regardless, it's still wrong. Even if she won't watch it, somebody like Charlotte could stumble on it, either unknowingly or through her husband, who likely still assumes Bojack is a stand-up guy, or even Pete or Maddie, somebody could see it. As far as any of them know, Bojack is profiting off traumatizing a teenager who he treated like a niece. And considering how Bojack later gets effectively cancelled, remember that whole speech I gave about why people don't like it when celebrities go through scandals? It's so cruel, and she's never called out for it. After Bojack chokes Gina, he tries to use Diane to write a hard-hitting piece on himself, so he can take full responsibility.
I need you to write one of your takedowns about me.
What?
You can't write anything about Gina, but the other stuff, everything. I need to get it out.
But remembering what happens with Hank, Diane refuses and instead suggests Bojack go to rehab. I think another reason she said no was because this was right after Bojack successfully made people think the choking incident was a misunderstanding, so it's gonna come off as, haha, Diane is attention seeking like usual. Season 6 sees an all new Diane, in more ways than one. She travels around the country, filming videos with a camera guy, literally named Guy.
Ergo.
Say ergo one more time.
Ergo.
Nah.
But he's pretty cool and a much better boyfriend than Mr. Peanut Butter, albeit I don't have a lot of time to get into him. Diane is ordered by Stefani to make more feel-good videos, much to her dismay.
Local cameraman has a pretty good thing going where he gets to travel all over the country and fool around in hotel rooms with his beautiful, smart, feisty producer. So maybe these two knuckleheads should swallow their pride for a second and make some feel-good videos.
I think it goes without saying that the episode Feel Good Story is basically Hank After Dark with a bittersweet ending. Diane and Guy interview a startup company where Diane lets it slip about how a major company called White Whale buys up smaller companies to avoid any and all criticism.
We are excited to announce that as of today, the Every Animal Girl Company has been purchased by Toys Galore, a subsidiary of White Whale Consolidated Interest.
Feel good.
What an exciting, empowering time for you.
What's worse is how White Whale buys Girl Cruise for this exact reason.
Oh, there it is. The Every Animal Girl Company.
You don't really think White Whale bought Girl Cruise just to kill our video?
And you couldn't just tell a feel-good story about two friends who started a business.
Diane and Guy decide to make one final video before they're let go, about how the White Whale CEO murdered one of his employees and tried to cover it up.
What do you mean?
What if we did one more video about anything we wanted and posted it on the website before they realized we still have all the passwords?
We could do a story about White Whale.
They jump through so many hoops. Like, you have to give her credit. You have to give Guy credit. He connected Diane with another reporter.
Diane, this is Isabel, star reporter at the Tribune. She's been hunting White Whale for years.
Call me Isabel.
They just worked all night. Sometime later, they're called in to speak to the big ambergris himself, Jeremiah White Whale, who says he doesn't care what they say or do, because he's a rich dude and Congress passed a bill so billionaires can legally murder. No, really.
Congress just passed a bill legalizing murder if you're rich.
No, they didn't. Oh my God, they did.
Which I'm not a fan of when Bojack tries to be super out there. Like they do here. Couldn't he just be like, oh, he's a nameless employee, so no one's gonna care. Or Girl Cruise is basically BuzzFeed, and Stefani did want a feel-good piece, so they're not gonna publish it anyway. But I'll admit, it's still a funny moment. Taking Bojack's advice once again, Diane agrees to stay with Guy in Chicago and write a book of essays.
One last thing, and then I swear to God I'll shut up about this forever. Dispatches from the front lines of the war on women. Arguments, opinions, reflections, recollections, a razor tax.
Is this still the title?
Yay! Now we get to Good Damage, the episode I most wanted to talk about for so long. You don't freaking understand. Seriously, this was originally what the video was meant to be about, but I find I do better when I talk about an overall topic versus just one episode. So let's get into it. In season 6B, Diane is starting a new happy life and going on antidepressants, which kudos Diane, you were one of my inspirations when I started Crazy Pills.
The Chicago baby humans are owned by the brother of the CEO of Plastico, and we are thereby complicit in this incestuous money laundering scheme that's, oh, by the way, killing the planet. Well, what are you gonna do, right?
However, this gets in the way of Diane trying to write her book of essays, the subject being about her bad childhood, and the theme, good damage, as in she had bad experiences, but she's better off for them.
I read an article about the Japanese art of kintsugi, and it fell apart again.
Kept falling apart like our marriage.
Is that something?
It doesn't help Princess Carolyn keeps breathing down her neck.
Send me the pages and I'll get them to the publisher.
Okay, but no hurry.
Okay, but no, hurry.
While brainstorming at the mall, Diane starts to write a fun, upbeat story called Ivy Tran, Food Court Detective, who is basically a younger, happier Diane.
Who are you?
I'm Ivy. My mom and I just moved to Chicago from Southern California.
What? No, I'll take the case.
Oh, and also, I'm Vietnamese American.
Beast.
Ivy Tran, Food Court Detective.
Even if she had fun writing it, she doesn't think that it's good enough and decides to go off her medication so she'll be in the right state of mind to talk about trauma. Diane, don't do it, please. Just put on Elliott Smith. Trust me, he's all the inspiration you'll need. As expected, the withdrawal starts to get to her and disturbs her writing process.
Right on. Hey, how was the writing?
What do you mean?
You were gonna write today.
Oh, is the day over?
And also her mental state.
Diane, what is going on?
There's a heaviness on my chest. And it's not just my boobs, even though, yes, my boobs are heavier now.
It seems like the only lifeboat is Ivy. While Diane is in the process of getting better, Guy sends the Ivy Tran pages to Princess Carolyn, who loves it and wants her to do that instead of the book of essays. Later, when Diane is on her way to Connecticut, she pictures herself speaking with Ivy.
Just be fun and popular like me.
I don't know how.
Yeah, I know. But wouldn't it be nice if it was?
I wonder if this is what creators do with their characters. I think I've done it 1 or 2 times myself. Afterwards, Diane tries to tell Princess Carolyn why she's so stubborn.
And I decided that one day I would write something that would make little girls like me feel less alone.
Then maybe write this other book. Maybe this book does that too.
Like I told you, escapism is equally important to keep in mind when you're a writer. It helps people, and Princess Carolyn is right. Like when Diane goes to an Ivy Tran book signing and sees firsthand the impact she's having on little girls like her.
Melanie, good luck with your braces. I think they look cool.
The Ivy Tran book series gets to be successful. Maybe not Rick Riordan successful, but successful enough. But there's one more moment I have to mention before I end the video. Diane's stepson, Sonny, is staying with her and Guy, and he stumbles upon Diane's manuscript. He has some criticism.
Like, you say the book takes place in Chicago, but Ivy lives in Schaumburg. What's next? Evanston, Chicago? Morton Grove, Chicago? Naperville, Chicago?
But what about Oklahoma City, Chicago? Or New York, Chicago? I hear they have great pizza. But Diane could always add that into the book. Oh my god, I love living in Chicago. Ivy, you live in Thornburg? Thornburg is not Chicago. However, this moment bonds them, and it's so sweet, especially with how awkward they were up to this point.
Was that real too?
Well, the book is fiction.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just parts of it felt real, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Now, with that out of the way, what can we learn from Diane? Well, outside of how hard it is to be a writer in this day and age, especially if you don't know how to network, is that we can use our terrible experiences to make something truly beautiful. I'm a big believer that the most interesting story you can tell is the one that comes from you. Obviously, you should change some details, but you'd be surprised at how much stuff comes from something else. For example, I always talk about the Mike Judge cartoons. Characters like Butthead or Dooley were inspired by a bully who always told Mike Judge exactly how he'd bully him, which is why those two always say the most obvious. Meanwhile, for South Park, Butters was based off of Eric Stoltz, who Matt and Trey saw as an eager-to-please goody-goody. When they made the movie, this behavior annoyed them to no end. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't, but these writers were able to use their negative experiences to create something memorable, funny, or moving that sticks with you to this day. Diane was able to do that with Ivy Tran, stupid middle school series or not. And when you think about it, she can have her cake and eat it too. With most series nowadays, regardless of the medium, there's the general expectation that it'll start off lighthearted, but gradually become darker while still staying true to the spirit of the work. And I'd argue YA is much better at this than adult stuff, as it has to work within more confines. By making the book applicable to everybody, they can still talk about dark subject matter in ways that you can get regardless of age. The Owl House can best be summed up as Jim Jones is trying to force everybody to drink Flavor Aid, but people still like it, and it's helped them. I've seen it firsthand. It's even helped me. In Diane's world, maybe book 1 sees Ivy deal with a bully named Christy Fegan, only for book 3 to reveal that Christy is abused by her parents and takes her rage out on Ivy. Or in book 1, Ivy is a little upset about her dad leaving, and then in book 5 we learn that she romanticized him, and like it or not, she was still miserable and there's no changing that. Diane could use her literature to work through her issues like she's been doing for the whole series. I think another important lesson isn't that it's hard to be a writer because the whole world can easily be against you, but rather being a writer rewards not only you, but your audience and beyond. Horsing Around is a stupid, sappy show, but people liked it because it brought them joy. Diane liked it because she was able to turn off her brain and pretend she wasn't being bullied and people hated her. In fact, a large percentage of Full House fans are kids from abusive homes because, sappy or not, it represents an idealized world where families get along. You don't have to be hard-hitting or try to make a difference with everything you write or publish. You just have to find your niche and write what you can or what you're best at. And that was Diane, or Diane in relation to writing. True, there are moments where I dislike her, but you have to admit the writers really understand the writing process to a T, and they are able to convey that through Diane. Now that I have a little more writing experience, I relate to her a lot more. And I wonder, does Ivy Tran have a TV tropes page?
Shut up! Shut up, children!